Stevens Point Public Policy and General Government Meeting, recorded March 8, 2021.
All right, I'm still letting people in, and I will continue to do that, but I have 6 o'clock. So before we get started, I want to remind everybody, please keep yourselves on mute for the courtesy of everyone involved. And if you have something to say, you can raise your virtual hand. If you're through video, you can get the attention of the chair, or you can use the chat if you feel the need to request being recognized to speak. As I mentioned earlier, Alder Nabel has asked to be excused once again. So chairpersons, please take note. And with that, I will turn it over to Public Policy and General Government. Chair Jennings, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I will call the Public Policy and General Government meeting to order. As the Mayor stated, Alder Nabel is excused and we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is the license list. A is a temporary Class B license. This is for a picnic with the Wisconsin League of Muskie Anglers. This is their sign-up meeting on May 18th. There was no additional information in the packet. Chief Zenner, do you have any concerns on this?
No, we don't.
Any questions, comments from the committee? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Bring it back to the committee. What are your wishes?
Alder Fischler, I'll move approval for the temporary Class B license or picnic license for Wisconsin League of Muskie Anglers.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
League here, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Next is 2B, a temporary extension of license premise for Stevens Point Ice Hawks, 801 Badger Avenue. They want to extend, normally this is held inside, they want to extend outside into the grass area to help socially distance. I did contact the applicant. There is existing fencing on 2 sides plus the building itself. And they are aware that they will need to put up some kind of temporary fencing in front of the parking area. So snow fencing or something similar to that. So with that information, Chief Zenner, do you have any concerns?
No issues.
All right, committee?
Alder Kneebone here. It's down the street from where I live, about half a mile. The area they're talking about can easily be contained. It's fenced on 2 or 3 sides already. So I will move to approve. They usually put on really good events there.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Alder Fischler, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. I didn't have a chance to ask if there was anyone from the public who had comments. Seeing none, I bring it back to the committee. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Next is 2C, a secondhand jewelry, secondhand article pawnbroker license with Lee Air Jewelers, 1044 Main Street. It's just a regular license renewal. Chief Zenner?
No concerns.
Okay. Committee?
Alder Fischler, I'll move to approve the secondhand jewelry, secondhand article pawnbroker license for Lee Ayers Jewelers.
League here, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion carries and the license is granted. Moving on to agenda item number 3, request to hold event street closure. We can take A and B together. These are recurring events. For the first one, Mosey Leppin Classic Tournament, May 27th through 29th. This is a recurring event. However, there was nothing in the packet for it. The second one, 3B, is the Midwest Modified Car Show on May 29th. Recurring event. This will be in the Shopco parking lot. There is, from the information I have here, there is no alcohol served. Any concerns?
No concerns. It may be something, depending on, well, looking at it, it looks about 50. Whether we need to have auxiliary, we'll probably put that out to them as it stands.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Moving to the public, anyone have any comments from the public? Bringing it back to the committee, what are your wishes?
Lee Carroll, move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Second, please.
Kneebone will second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion carries for approval of both events. Moving on to agenda item number 4. This is an ordinance amendment for chapter 2.21, reconsideration of question. I did bring this ordinance change forward in consultation with President Johnson and Attorney Beveridge. Sometimes the inadequacies of ordinance language does not appear until standing rules are actually used. So if President Johnson, you're present, would you mind commenting on this? And also I would like to ask Attorney Beveridge to make any comments if he has anything further to add. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Jennings. I appreciate the opportunity. Of course, this is a result of kind of related to the reconsideration motion with Edgewater. And there was nothing wrong with the motion at that time. Based on our ordinance, it was fully within the realm of things. I took some time to research Robert's Rules of Orders, and much of our rules are predicated on Robert's Rules of Order. In fact, I think it says something to the effect where our ordinances do not explicitly say something, Robert's Rules of Order will prevail. So the language that you see before you is basically taken from Robert's Rules of Order. And the reason this is important, a reconsideration vote. Imagine a time-sensitive issue. Let's say we've just decided by vote that we were going to enter into a development agreement, millions of dollars on the line, time-sensitive, needs to get going, and council approves it, staff goes out, starts the work. All of a sudden, an alder says we're going to reconsider. Now we've got a 3-week lag because the next meeting isn't until the next month. It can stall that project. Or let's say it's a labor agreement. And now we find the very same situation. So the reconsideration motion, based on my research, wasn't about, regrets after we passed something and then a week later we go, I want to have it reconsidered. It was really about the moment at which the motion was made and passed. Someone voting in the affirmative could, at that meeting, this is what it's intended for, to say, hey, wait a minute, I think we've got a little bit more information. I want to reconsider this. That's what this is designed for. And as a result, that's what we used. We used Robert's Rules of Order, and again, worked with Attorney Beveridge to wordsmith this, and it's before you.
Thank you, President Johnson. Attorney Beveridge, did you have any additional comments, please?
No, in fact, the comments that I was expecting to make were covered very nicely by President Johnson with regards to time-sensitive issues and any type of motion that would require staff to begin acting on it right away. It could create a very ambiguous kind of scenario. So nothing further to add.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee for the attorney or President Johnson? And also, obviously, what's underlined in the ordinance amendment change is new language. Any questions on this agenda item?
I do have a question, Alder Fischler. So I guess it's not really mainly a question, it's a comment. Because I know that the US Senate has rules pretty similar to this, even in the way they're worded. And I understand the importance of that, but I also think that many people who serve on the council aren't full-time politicians. And I think it's important that if someone's passionate enough about a certain subject or a topic and found out more information that may have had them vote differently on a topic, that they should at least have a little bit longer amount of time to bring that forward to the council for reconsideration. So those are my thoughts on that.
Any other comments or questions from the committee? And then we'll move it to the public.
Chair, I have a quick, I'm sorry, do you want to let I was going to ask Corey or Logan, sometimes if a vote is approved that involves enacting a contract and that gets enacted the next day, there can be some severe financial repercussions if you try to break a contract. If you come back, say 3 weeks later and the vote changes, I agree with Alder Fischler's idea of being able to think about stuff, but should be researched before you come in ready to vote. But that would be my concern, that if a vote changed and we had already as a city signed a contract, what kind of financial repercussions would there be?
Well, I mean, obviously that's going to depend upon the particulars of whatever contract that is, but you can certainly envision other types of scenarios, not necessarily involving a contract, but what if it's the creation of a new position and then a week later you've already hired the person to fill that position, and then, oh, sorry, oh, wait, you might not actually have a job. I mean, there's all types of scenarios you can imagine where there just needs to be some closure. I mean, when you're in court and you rest your case, you don't get to wait an hour and then go, oh, wait, I forgot something. Sometimes you just have to say, this is the vote, and barring some very crazy circumstance, which, you know, somebody finds out some new bit of information right away or within the next day. I mean, it doesn't entirely close off reconsideration. It just takes it from what we currently have, which opens the door to crazy things, and closes it to what I would think of as a reasonable amount.
I know that Mayor Weezer had his hand up, and I know Alder Dalton has a comment. Anyone else from the committee first? Okay, seeing none. Mayor Weezer, did you have a comment?
Sure, thank you. No, and a reconsideration request is rarely used. I can't think of any time in the, I guess it's coming up on 17, 18 years now that I've been involved with local government where we've had it as a time-sensitive issue. We certainly have opportunity if a decision is made and we enter into a contract. That's something completely different. Once the contract is signed, the contract is signed. The reconsideration requests have almost exclusively been because new evidence came to light, and I can't think of any time where that evidence showed up at the meeting or the next day. It was usually a couple of days when we found that new additional information. If it's a time-sensitive issue, we have the ability to call a meeting within 24 hours in almost every case. And if it's an extreme emergency, we can do it in, I think, 4 hours notice. Correct me if I'm wrong, Logan. My concern is reconsideration is afforded to this body and every other municipal body through either their ordinances or Robert's rules. There's a reason it's in place. Things come up, and to shortchange ourselves or the people being considered, to limit it to new information at that meeting, which I think is completely unreasonable. If the information's at the meeting, you should have it before you vote. But even the next day, I think that's too short. I understand there are extenuating circumstances at times where we may need to act very quickly. Every one of you here has been called by the city clerk to see their availability for a special meeting because we had something timely. I would say if we're going to make a change through our reconsideration process, that we at least extend it to 5 days. And if you want to limit it to, certain actions, that's okay. But we have never had an instance where we had a signed contract and then somebody wanted to reconsider, or we had city staff hire somebody and then we wanted to reconsider. These things have never happened. So just when you're thinking about this ordinance, our goal here is to be as transparent and informed as possible, keeping the public involved. This limits that. Thank you.
Alder Dalton.
Thank you, Chair Jennings. I would like to encourage the committee to vote against this amendment tonight. As stated previously, I think the idea of reconsideration is to be able to make an informed decision, and I agree with the mayor that often that information comes not within 24 hours, but as the action has taken and new evidence can come to light. And I think the worst case scenarios that are being imagined are actually mitigated by the fact that this motion requires a 3/4 majority vote to even reconsider. So the very fact that reconsideration is brought forward does not mean that the decision is even acted upon. There has to be a discussion about whether or not the new evidence is even worthy to open up the question again, as we demonstrated in December. And I think if what took place in December over the Edgewater decision was believed to be a change of heart about the decision, I guess I would strongly argue that was not at all what was happening. In fact, there was new evidence that there was interested parties in redeveloping Edgewater, and that actually has a substantial financial implication for the direction and course of action that we did take. And finally, my experiences with other city councils across the state of Wisconsin is that the reconsideration is used rather rarely, and it is and I think very reasonably within the next cycle of meetings. Unfortunately, our meeting cycle is once a month, so there is a whole month between this procedure. Some communities have full council meetings every 2 weeks, and so that cycle would take place a little quicker. But I think that it is very reasonable, our rules as they stand. Thank you.
Attorney Beveridge, you have a comment?
Yes, I just want what Alder Dalton had mentioned about this requiring a supermajority. I think that glosses over the effect that the simple moving for it would have. If there is a timely made motion for reconsideration, even if there's a strong likelihood that motion will fail, it puts the carrying out of the actions on hold, no matter what. I mean, you simply can't paint yourself into a corner by going down a road that might end up being closed off. So I think that, the question as to, how long a period to have is certainly an appropriate one. But one of my concerns here is just, as it's currently written, essentially any action that somebody disagrees with for whatever reason, it just opens up a 30-day period during which they can try to lobby somebody who voted in the majority on it. And we may not have had any of these, examples that we've thrown out actually occur, but it doesn't mean that they couldn't occur. So I think perhaps raising it from the next day to some longer period of time would certainly make a lot of sense. But based upon what we've seen with comparables and other examples of similar provisions, I think the current period of time we have as the status quo might just be a little bit too long.
President Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attorney Beveridge, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we get past this reconsideration situation and we approve the ordinance as it's written, an alder would always have another mechanism by which to bring something back to council. Is that not correct? Wouldn't they be able to say, I want on the next agenda topic A, which because of reconsideration rules, I was not able to bring forward. Is that not correct?
Well, that's going to depend on the nature of the item that was voted on. Certainly there are plenty of things that the council acts on, which, you could create a comprehensive change to our ordinances and undo it at the very next meeting. That's just legislative prerogative. So most of the situations are going to involve things that are, construction, built environment, contractual relationships, those types of things. And the language that's in there in the draft regarding that a motion to reconsider would be out of order if the motion that it's applied to can be renewed, or when the desired results can be achieved via any other type of parliamentary procedure. I think that's kind of what your comment's getting there a little bit. Like, okay, my ordinance proposal failed. I can bring it back potentially. And we've actually seen that happen in the past. So you're absolutely right.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Attorney Beveridge.
I'm sorry. Any other comments from the committee or alders? And then we'll move to the public. Alder Kneebone.
Chair, yeah, thank you. So if one makes the assumption that the action would be taken on a Monday during the normal course of the committees, would it be appropriate to put a time frame like close of business on the following Friday? And that would give 4 days of time. Would something like that be appropriate?
Attorney Beveridge.
I think just off the top of my head that actually would coincide with the period of time in which the mayor must either approve things or veto them. So perhaps those two periods of time could coincide. I think it would make a lot of sense to do it that way.
We'll move to the public. Any comments from the public? We'll bring it back to committee. What are your wishes?
Chair, I will move to approve, or with changing the time frame from the next day to close of business the subsequent Friday. And I'll ask the city attorney if that would be, if that wording of the motion would be appropriate.
So we have a motion with language amendment. Is there
a point of order? Robert's rules would state that the appropriate motion, if you want to change something, you first motion to amend, provided the amendment is successful or not successful. Then the motion would be to either approve as presented or approve as amended.
Thank you, Mayor.
So I could rephrase that to say that I would move to approve with the amendment. No. I'll stop and let someone else.
Alder, but if you would like to do something, I think I know what you'd like to do. You would move to amend the ordinance proposal, and then state whatever date change you want, whether it's 4 calendar days or 4 work days. And that would be the motion. The motion would be to amend the ordinance proposal and then state your change.
Okay, we'll start again. So move to amend the ordinance to allow reconsideration up to the subsequent Friday or 4 days. Okay, see, how about I'll stop. And I'm sorry.
If I may, I think so. The point is here, we need 2 different votes, right? We need to make the amendment, vote on the amendment, then vote on the whole thing. Okay.
Wait, I think sorry to interrupt. I think our attorney has.
Yeah, let's hear from him. And
so the provision governing approval or veto by the mayor, it's under the statutes in 6209 sub 8 sub C. And it says the mayor shall have the power to veto as to all acts of the council, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as evidenced by the mayor's signature or upon failing to approve or disapprove within 5 days. So you have a period of time written right into the statute there that I think is a good parallel for this. And, obviously not every council action occurs on a Monday either. So I think perhaps phrasing it to say within the time period afforded under 6209 sub 8 sub C, it's a little bit of a mouthful, but I think that might be an appropriate period of time since it mirrors what's in the statute for a similar type of scenario.
Attorney Beveridge, do you mind repeating that portion, the language itself? Afforded under.
Within the period of time afforded under 6209 sub 8 sub C.
Alder Kneebone, are you ready to?
Perhaps someone a little bit more eloquent than I should try to do this. So we first have to, I'm a little confused now on the order. I know we have to do this twice.
Mayor, go ahead.
So Alderperson Kneebone, what I believe you want to do is motion to amend the ordinance proposal, striking at the same day as the meeting or the next day, that line, and then insert the statute that Attorney Beveridge proposed. So the motion, your words could be, I move to amend the ordinance proposal, striking the next day with the exception of holidays. I'm sorry, same day as the meeting, that line, and then insert the statute that Attorney Beveridge wants. I believe the attorney also understands that, so he can certainly have it, if it's approved, prepared correctly for council.
It will not say within the period of time afforded under 6209 sub 8 sub C.
That was just going to clarify that it was 6209 sub 8 sub C.
Correct. So we have motion to amend the language.
To amend the ordinance proposal, striking the language or the next day with exceptions for holidays or unexpected closures, and substitute the language in statute 6209 sub 8 sub C.
All right, do we have a second?
Leak here, I'll second it.
Okay, we have A motion and a second on the amended language. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay.
Any opposed say no. So we have the motion carries with a majority. There is one no. Next is we need a motion on the ordinance with the amended language.
So moved. Bleak here.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Nebo will second this one.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the ordinance with language changed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries 3-1. With that, our agenda is exhausted and we adjourn at 6:31 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.